Hi everyone, welcome to Clutch Entertainment today, and today we'll be talking about my top 10 personal favorite cartoon series growing up. There was a number of different ones that I went through, and I just wanted to see which one was which, and I just got to a point where I was just like, I like these top 10, and I made a list, and I wanted to share with you guys a bunch of these different ones. I'm sure you'll remember a lot of them if you grew up during the 90s and 2000s. But these are my top 10 favorites, and I would recommend watching each and every one of them if you ever get the chance because they're all really great shows. And even if you're an adult and you watch them, I think it would bring back a lot of nostalgia. And if you're not like when say you're a kid now and you're watching this now, you may go back and you're like, wow, these are really good shows because they don't make shows like they used to. I feel like a lot of the shows now are more so tailored differently. So let's get right into it and let's go to our top 10, my top 10 here. So first off, we'll start off with SpongeBob SquarePants. He was about a sponge who lived at the bottom of the sea, and he was friends with a starfish, a squid. Also, there was like a squirrel who wore like a diver's mask. I think it's I forgot her name, but and then there was like another one that was a lobster. I can't remember his name, but overall, SpongeBob was a really funny show. Originally, it was tailored to be for adults, adult humor. So you could notice, like within some of the writing, that it seems like it is somewhat for adult humor, but it's got a lot of funny stuff in it, and it's a really good show. You really could see like SpongeBob making you laugh at one point of the day or two. But he really gets you to that point where you're just like, this is a really funny show, and I really like this show. But the whole plot of it is SpongeBob goes through different adventures, and he ends up going into different areas. And the most famous food there is the Bikini Bottom Burger. I can't remember what it's called. Um, yeah, I can't remember what it's called at the time. But yeah, we'll have to get back to that. But yeah, so SpongeBob was a really good show, and I just really enjoyed it. And so let's go to number nine. So number nine was the Animaniacs. So basically, it was a bunch of like almost like mouses, I guess you'd call them, but they would be goofy and they'd like troll all these people in the town, and they'd just be like really like basically goofballs. And the guys you can see in the bottom, like the policeman with the net, they always just try to catch them, and they never could. And they would always cause trouble for the town, and they would just have a lot of fun. They'd always enjoy themselves. So it's basically like two brothers and a sisters there, and they just enjoyed themselves, and they took care of business, and they had a lot of good times together, and they had a lot of good laughs that would make you laugh in the end. So that was probably my favorite at number nine. So let's go to number eight. And number eight was The Simpsons. So growing up, like I remember watching it with my family. We would always watch it like when they had it on at 6 p.m., like right after dinner. We would always watch it, and they always had it on TV. And they would always have an adventure of each character had like their own funny thing with them. And so the one picture on the far right is Bart Simpson. I would say he's one of the main characters. He would always have funny adult humor or whatever. So my parents didn't really want us watching a whole lot of it, but it was a really good show. And then Lisa would be on the left in the middle. She would be like the sister. Marge would be the mother. She would always have some good jokes and stuff. And Homer on the far left, he would always have a joke or always do something stupid funny, and he'd always be drinking beer. So it's kind of like a family. I don't know how to describe it. Like a family in the like 90s or 2000s that are like just a family that functions like off and on, like great and sometimes bad. But it was just sometimes like really funny and just had a lot of adult humor in it too. But it was a really overall good show, and I would say definitely check it out. For number seven, I would say my favorite growing up was the Magic School Bus. I remember when I went to elementary school, they would even play it like during class, and we'd watch different episodes. Like one of them, they went into the human body and like explored things. So like it kind of made like scientific things um, more fun to watch. Like it helped me learn, I guess, a little bit about science in general because I forgot her name on the far right, but she would go into her own school bus basically and just take the children. She was a teacher and she took the children to all these different places, like unusual places. Like I think there was one where it was like an electromagnet, and then one was like a zoo, and then another one was like I said, in the human body. But it was just like a number of different science experiments, and she would just take them to experience that science. And I think one of them was even in space too. I think they went to the moon or something. I can't remember, but overall, there was a lot of good stuff in the show, and it had a lot of good content and also a lot of good learning and teaching. And I would say for any kid like growing up, I would say it's a good show to watch because it definitely engages you and it helps you to learn a lot about the science about things in a fun and playful way through kids. You know, like a kid friendly version. But it was definitely a good show, and I always enjoyed it. And each of the characters all had their own personality, and overall the students were all funny. So let's go to number six. So number six, I would say, is the Looney Tunes show. So picture in the middle is Bugs Bunny. On the left is Sylvester. The one on the right is Daffy, and then the left is Roadrunner, and then the bottom left is Tweety. But it was just a really funny show, and Wild Coyote's in the back right. So basically, all these characters would interact with each other. I think Elmer Fudd was in there too, but he's not pictured. But they always had this on, and they were always like hit each other and slapstick humor kind of thing. And there was a lot of different aspects of the show, and there was a lot of good episodes overall. I don't know how many seasons there were of this, but definitely had a lot of different good times with it, and there was a lot of funny and slapstick humor across the whole thing. So, like for example, Sylvester in the top would chase Tweety Bird and never would be able to get Tweety Bird at the bottom. And then Wile E. Coyote would always chase the Roadrunner on the far left, and he would never be able to catch the Roadrunner because the Roadrunner would be so fast and be like me me. So it was really funny, and then Daffy and Bugs Bunny would always interact with one another. So I'm sure everyone's at one point or another has seen the Looney Tunes. They've been around a long time, so I wouldn't think that even during the '90s, like you could probably say people in the '80s and '70s knew what the Looney Tunes were because they've been around a long time. But definitely a great show to watch and great show to check out. But I would definitely take a look at the Looney Tunes at some point because they'll make you laugh, that's for sure. So for number five, I would say it's Batman Beyond. So picture on the right is Bruce Wayne. This is like a sequel to the Batman show that we'll go into next. But basically, Batman Beyond's about a younger version that's trained by Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne like communicates with the newer Batman. So Batman Beyond is like the newer version of Batman. He's like a younger version, and he does interact with a lot of the former villains that Bruce Wayne interacted with. But it's definitely a really cool take because it's like a post Batman version, which is really awesome. I think how they took that angle and they made it like an animated series about Batman going on as like a younger version. But it has a lot of different like vibes. Like I would say some of the music's like definitely '90s vibe, and it makes it kind of like some of the pop music kind of along with the Batman. So it's kind of like a more, I guess, a more futuristic looking Batman, like the music too, which adds a little bit of vibe too. But Batman Beyond is definitely a really cool show, and it's definitely a different take on Batman in general. So I would definitely check it out, and let's get back to the next one. So I would say my number four would be the original Batman and Superman show. They had separate shows, but I'm just putting them together just for the sake of it. I always liked watching the animated versions of both of these. They both contributed a lot, and they both had a lot of different saves and a lot of battles with their villains. But overall, I really enjoyed watching Superman and Batman. They would even have like a Justice League episodes, a few of them, like where they'd cross over, and like even Green Lantern was in it as Wonder Woman and Flash. Like there was all different superheroes, but they usually Superman and Batman are like I would say the main two heroes of the show in general, because like of all the shows, because they're like the main captains, I guess. Because Superman, he's invincible. Like nothing can hurt him except kryptonite. And then for Batman, like he's just a regular human, but he knows everyone's weakness and he knows how to like, take care of things. Like there was even an episode where Batman had this protocol where if any of the Justice League went rogue, which is any of the other superheroes, he had a backup plan for each of them. I know it's on YouTube somewhere. Like I've seen the episode on YouTube, but basically it showed like how you take care of each hero if they went rogue, which is really cool because Batman like outsmarted pretty much everyone. Um, but definitely Batman and Superman were one of my favorites also. So on number three we have Arthur. Arthur was a show that was on like it was just like on a kids channel, and basically Arthur goes through several trials throughout the years, and there's like times where he imagines things like, but it applies like real world like feelings and events, and puts them through Arthur's eyes. So like if a child was going through something like that and they'd watch the show Arthur, they would see like, oh, Arthur's experiencing this, I experience this too. So it'd be a really good comparison between like actual life and actual like feelings that that Arthur's experiencing. One of my favorite episodes was the one where DW takes Arthur's flying plane and throws it out the window, and then Arthur goes, she goes, I thought it would fly, which DW's on the left. I thought it would be fly, and then Arthur makes a fist like this, and then he punches his sister, and she cries and all that. Like, I just thought it was really funny. And then there was also a Jekyll and Hyde episode where basically they were just like singing like musical songs, and Arthur was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It was pretty cool. It was another awesome episode, but they would always meet up at the Sugar Bowl, which was like their meeting place, and they talk about all their issues and such. But overall, it was a really good show, and definitely, and they're like I think it had 26 years of runtime, so I would definitely check out like even some of the series episodes of Arthur if you get a chance. And number two on my list would be Pokemon. So I grew up with Pokemon. I have Pokemon cards. I think I showed you in another video. Pokemon was probably my second favorite growing up. When I was in school, I remember we even had like trading cards and stuff because like I'd watch a show and then I'd want to get cards, and I bought booster packs because I watched the show and I thought it was really cool, and everyone else had the Pokemon cards. But then eventually people got them banned because they didn't want people stealing them and such. But Pokemon overall was a great show. It was about a trainer named Ash in the middle, and he met with his Pikachu or whatever, and Professor Oak, which is like the guy who gave him the Pikachu. Basically, Pikachu was mad at Ash at first, and then Ash showed him that he cared about the Pikachu, and the Pikachu became his best friend. And so Ash goes around the land trying to capture all 150 Pokemon, which is really cool. And he meets Misty on the right and Brock right there on the left, but I got him cut off a little bit. But overall, the show was a really great show, and it really showed like the virtues of friendship and such like that. But I really enjoyed it just because the Pokemon would battle, and then whoever was the strongest Pokemon would win. But Ash had to earn all the badges and get to the Pokemon League, but he ended up, I'm not going to spoil it. So it was a really great show, and I really enjoyed it, and I remember waking up every Sunday going for it. So the very last show, my number one is, drum roll, Yu-Gi-Oh! So pictured on the left is Yugi. He's the main protagonist. He's the one I grew up with and watched. Middle is Yusei. That's his name, Yusei. He's got his monster there, and then Jaden's on the far right. So basically, Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically started out with the Pharaoh, which he's got the Millennium Idol on the left, as you can see below. But his main monster was Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl, and then Yusei's is Stardust Dragon. So that's basically Yugi was the one that I always watched first, like the first show. It's called Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just regular Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's not anything else. And then the second show was Jaden's show, which was Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and the third one in the middle was Yusei's, which was Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D. So I watched 5Ds as an adult, and I didn't realize how good it was until I watched it. I've watched a little bit of GX on the far right. That show's pretty good. And then on the far left, I watched all of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Which basically it's a card game where you battle with monsters, and then whoever's got the higher attack monster wins. And they have card effects, and it's just a really complex game. I still play Yu-Gi-Oh! Today. I picked it up a few years back, but that would be another game I'd collect cards in and all that stuff. But overall, I really enjoyed the show of Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically, Yugi tried to collect the Millennium items, and then basically he became like the pharaoh whenever he would duel, and they would talk about a bunch of friendship and all that stuff too. It would be another kind of show that gives you like life lessons kind of thing, like in friendship and trusting people, and it was another great show, and I really enjoyed it. But overall, you should definitely check out this show also, and I especially recommend 5Ds also, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, because it's a really good show about the bond between friends and such. So overall, all these were all my favorites, and I'm hopefully that you got to experience some of these and enjoy it. So if you have any questions, or if you want to comment below on what your favorite show is, or if I missed any, just give me a like and subscribe, and also comment below. And thank you very much for watching Clutch Entertainment, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.